Hello, this is George Demaree with another episode of Your Money Matters. You know, it's all about money and how we manage our money. And over the last number of weeks, actually number of months now, I've had a great time in sharing with people how to do a better job of managing their money and making good decisions as it relates to their money. I've said many times the great majority of Americans don't do a great job of money management. You know, our school systems do at least an adequate job of teaching reading, writing, arithmetic, science, history, things like that, but don't really do a great job of helping you to manage money where you're using money and money's not using you. Over the last 4 to 5 weeks, I've been approached by a number of people who have asked me to help them with the money. They've asked things like they want to buy a house, how to put them in a position to buy a house. They're looking at ways of how to get out of debt. And they've asked about their credit rating. And remember, your goal as far as your credit rating is to get to 700 or better. Once you get to 700 or better, then you're paying a reasonable interest rate when you need to go and borrow money. And just lately, I've had a few people ask me questions about retirement and what to do in retirement. And last week, we talked about Social Security and what you need to do as it relates to Social Security. How Social Security is calculated, how many years you need to work in order to be eligible for Social Security, how many years they use in order to get those, get your number as far as full retirement. And should you collect your money at age 62 rather than age 66? But let me share this. No matter what it is that you want to do with your money, or any of the things you need to change, the first thing you need to change is how you think. How you think. Your imagination. Everything starts, every great achievement starts with how you think. Are you willing to do what it takes in order to change? I've told every person who's come to me and has asked me to help them, I've said, well, I tell you what, I will spend time, but you have got to change behavior if you want to change your financial situation. No matter anything you want to change, you've got to change your behavior. Albert Einstein said, imagination is more powerful than knowledge. Knowledge is limited, but imagination encircles the world. So what you see and what you believe you can achieve, you can achieve. He also said imagination is everything. It is the preview for life's coming attractions. So can you see yourself in a new house? Can you see yourself being debt-free? Can you actually see yourself having a credit rating of 750? So when those times come up and you do need to buy a car, or you do need to buy something and you just got to have, you can buy it at a very, very competitive interest rate. My fraternity brothers are outside right now helping with this water initiative that we have going on to send water to Texas because Texas is having such a bad time with water. And one of my brothers asked me, so kind of, George, you tell me a little bit about money. And I share with him the same thing that I share with everybody, is that you've got to change how you think. And this is what he said. He said, well, even when you tell people that, I mean, what advice can you give them? Well, let me share with you why changing your thinking can be so daggone difficult today, and even more so today than it was 30, 40 years ago. In the 70s, everybody was exposed to anywhere between 500 and 1,500 advertising impressions a day, where they were exposed to somebody trying to change their thought process that length of time. Now, in 2021, now you're exposed to anywhere between 6,000 and 10,000 messages, advertising impressions daily. How often do you search something on your phone, on your laptop, and then once you search that company, either that company or companies that would support that company start following you with ads? It is incredible what advertisers can do now to change how you think, to put you in a position to make purchases that you may not even need or that you don't even want. I buy most of my clothes, don't buy as many as I used to, but I buy most of my clothes online. They know what I want to buy. They know my price point. They don't even start sending me ads until they get to a price point that I'm willing to buy things. So again, you have to learn to be a critical thinker, to think critically. What is it to think critically? I mean, what do you mean? A lot of times when people think about being critical, it can be a negative. But from my perspective, it's a positive. It's exercising or involving careful judgment, judicious evaluations, using good judgment. That's being a critical thinker. Don't allow someone to change your process of what you're trying to do. If you want to get there, you can get there. Critical thinking, if you look it up by definition, is an intelligent discipline, a process of actively and skillfully conceptualizing and analyzing information. I was talking to a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine from California when I was putting together this presentation. And I read that he said, George, do it in more layman's terms. And this is what it is. It's using good common sense. Using good common sense. Does it make sense for me to make that purchase? Should I spend a lot more for something just because it has a logo on it that something else hasn't? Am I taking the time to do what I need to do as it relates to my money? Remember this, you always become what you think about. You just become what you think about. There are 5 critical questions that I like to ask as it relates to your money and moving forward. Critical question number 1. What is the meaning of success? What is the meaning of success for you? Is it, you defined it, success is what you want it to be. What is that? Think about it. Write it down. I will be successful. Successful is if this gets done. Critical question number 2. What do you want your life to look like? What do you want your life to look like? If you could see a reflection of what you wanted life to be, as it relates to your money, and a lot of everything is attached to that, what do you want that to look like? Number No, it's number two. Number three, do you know what you want to do? What is it you want to do? One of the things about this pandemic, that if you could take this lemon and make it lemonade, is how can I change, how can I improve my current situation in a way that when we get to the other end of this pandemic, I'm in a better position than I was before the pandemic started. What is it that you want to do? And remember, what you want to do should be a direct reflection of what you want your life to look like. If you want to help people, and that's what you want to do, and that's what you want your life to look like, then what you do should be able to be a reflection of that, if that makes sense. Number four, do you believe it's obtainable? Do you believe it's obtainable? Do you believe you can go buy a house? Do you believe it? Do you believe that you can get a credit rating over 700 and 750? Do you? And do you believe those goals are obtainable? And if so, why? If so, why are those goals obtainable? And if not, why not? Why not? Think about it. It's about how you think and thinking critically. And finally, and this is the question that I believe is the most important out of all, though all are very important. What are you willing to do to get it done? What are you willing to do to get it done? What sacrifices are you willing to make? What things are you willing to change? What behaviors do you need to alter in order to get to where you want to today? Remember, the great majority of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. You don't need to be one of them. So let's talk a little bit about retirement. Again, last week, we talked about Social Security and how Social Security works and the things you need to do. But remember this, Social Security was never here to be 100% of your retirement income. As a matter of fact, Social Security is designed to only be 40% of your retirement income. Now think about what I just said. Only 40% of your retirement income should come from Social Security. So what do you need to do in order to put yourself in a better position for retirement? Again, I was just asked that question last week. Well, first of all, you need to develop a plan. Got to have a plan. It's like a plan with a map. That same friend that I talked to who happens to live in California, if I decided that I'm going to get in my car today and I'm going to drive and I'm going to go to California and I'm just going to drive, who knows where I'm going to end up? Without a plan, a map, using my GPS to get me there. Have a plan, have a set of goals that can help you to get to the objective that you want to get to. Sit down, have someone to help you with it. Look at it, what's required. That's number one. Number two, and I've said this so many times in this program, and you'll hear me say it a ton more. Budget. There are three words that I'm going to say that are very important. And those three words are budget, budget, and budget. Create a budget. Your plan has to have a budget. You won't know where your money is until you put it on paper. You have a designated amount of money in your budget that's going to go to all the things you need. We talked about that a few weeks ago. about a percentage of your money going to your necessity, what Dave Ramsey calls your four walls, is your shelter, utilities, transportation, and food. In a perfect world, you want only 50% of your income going towards that. There are some other things we can go later, we'll talk about at a later date. Number 3, I'm going to give you 3 more words that are real important to put yourself in a position to be ready for retirement. Save, save, save. You've got to save money. There have been a ton of things that I've done with my money, my personal money, that looking back on it, again, I wish I was this smart 20 years ago and I'd have a whole bunch more money. But there's one thing that I did do that I can tell everybody. I saved money every paycheck. Save, save, save. Remember, money grows exponentially. We talked about that. You know, save a little. Save something every month. Save something every month. Create an emergency fund. There will be an emergency. There will be a time when you're going to need $500, $600, $1,500 to pay something that you didn't see coming. Make sure that you put some of your money into an emergency fund. 4th, invest. So there's 2 pots of money, saving money, and there are 2 different pots. One is, again, emergency fund, things that can help you so you need not use a credit card when the unexpected happens, and the unexpected will happen. You've heard Reverend Cosby say many times, everybody is in one of 3 positions. Either you got over a tough situation, or you're in middle of a tough situation, or a tough situation, a storm is waiting to get there. So be like I was a Boy Scout, as a matter of fact. Be always a Boy Scout when you're a Boy Scout. Be prepared. Be prepared. The other bit is making sure you invest. There's tons of ways to invest. Depending on your gut, depending on your ability to take risk. But the higher the risk, the higher the reward. It is easier to take risk in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 30s, 40s, and even 50s than it is to take risk in your mid 60s, 70s, in years to come. But in those early years, don't be afraid to take calculated risks with your money, whether it be in the stock market, whether it be in what we call growth mutual funds. Growth mutual funds, what Dave Ramsey does, it makes a ton of sense to me, is to pick mutual funds that have beat, and this is some terminology you may have to look up, that have beat the S&P, all right? Things that have consistently done well. Now, let me also say this about stock. Just because a stock has done really well today is no guarantee that that stock will do well tomorrow. So you have to take risks, but think about it when you're investing your money. But if you want to be in a good position to retirement, be willing to put some money away, invest your money every paycheck, especially in an early age, and you watch your money grow. There's other ways of investing, insurances, annuities. different investment people will give you different benefits from each. But more times than not is make sure you do it, and if you, what kind of risk you're willing to take. Next, when you're preparing to retire, is try to create multi-revenue streams. Don't be dependent on your employer. Look for other ways of making money. There are a ton of ways out there that you can make money. What can you do on a part-time job? What can you do on the side? What are you willing to do that's different than everybody else in order for you to make more money? Are you willing to, or can you invest in real estate? Go online, what can you sell? How can you look at things and help to save your money? So look for multiple ways of making money and try to the best of your ability not to be dependent on your employer only. Let me tell you what happens when you're dependent on employers. This is almost all of them. There are exceptions, but let me tell you how employers, how corporate America makes decisions as it relates to their employees. Do they want you to be, for the most part, a good environment? And they do. And do they say that they are employee focused? Yeah, that's what most say. But at the end of the day, it's return on investment to stockholders. And they will do, for the most part, whatever it takes to meet or exceed expectation of return on investment to stockholders. Well, why is that so important? Because if you meet and exceed expectation, guess what happens to the stock price? Goes up almost every time. If they say we're going to have a 8% return on investment this year, and that was the forecast, and it ended up being 10 rather than 8, the probability of that stock price going up is really high. And who are the majority stockholders? Think about it. That's how they make decisions on your employment. There's two ways, remember this, that's why you need multiple streams of income. There are basically two ways companies make money. There's only two. One is by increased sales. That's why sales are so important. That's why salespeople are so valuable, and that's the reason salespeople, as a rule, make more money than anybody else in most companies. They just do, all right? Because they're the people bringing in the revenue, and they get a piece of that revenue, all right? The other way that companies make money is reducing expenses. So what is the top expense for any company? Employers, employees. That's why, if I could go there with this, that's how America grew so rapidly in the 1800s. Well, actually, from 1619 up until the mid-1900s, because of slavery and pseudo-slavery after slavery. Because if you don't have to pay an employee, all that money goes to the bottom line. So if they cannot increase sales and they want to increase value to a stockholder, the possibility of people losing their jobs and being laid off is high. Finally, if you want to be in a position to retire, consider even after retirement having a part-time job. Sometimes that friend in California, man, he's retired and he's not doing anything. I'm telling you, one day he's going to want to do something else. Think about getting out there. Sometimes those greeters that you see at some of the stores or or those folks that work at golf courses, they many times they don't do it for the money. They do it just because it's something to do. But they're great ways of subsidizing your retirement income. You know, when I left the radio station, those frat brothers I was just talking to out front, they said, well, George, you went from a job to another job. Another thing about retirement and being able to change where you work is that it's not that you want to stop working, because I didn't want to stop working. I couldn't sit in the house and not do anything, but gives you a choice of where you want to work and what you want to do. That's what happens when you save money. If your company, we're going to talk about that in a minute. If your company has a 401k, max it out. Max it out. If your company is a company that will match, you've got to make sure that you take advantage of that free money. Speaking of retirements, let me share with you where millionaires invest their money and how they got in that position if they weren't blessed to have a mama or daddy who gave it to them. Number one is with 401ks. Because if you went to work for a company and you're in your 30s, and you started investing in that 401k, and now you're in your 50s, and you invested in any kind of growth mutual funds, you made a bunch of money with that. A lot. The other is IRAs. That's money that you can put in an investment account that's tax deferred. Now, hear what I just said. It's not tax free. It's tax deferred. That those taxes are deferred. The next is real important is home ownership. Home ownership. If you've been renting and you're paying an exorbitant amount of money for rent, let me tell you what you're doing. You're helping your landlord to become a millionaire because you are paying that mortgage payment and he's getting all the equity in that. If you want to buy a house, you can, and you're paying that kind of money for rent, $1,000 or more, you trust me, more times than not, if you go to the right people, they can help you to buy a house. They can buy it's your credit. It's two things that got to be there in order for you to buy a house. Actually, three. One is you got to have a good credit rating, because usually the better your credit rating, the better your interest rate. Number two is your debt to income ratio, that you can't have a whole bunch of debt against your income. They want it to be, they really like it to be around 36%, but you can get away with it if it's 43 or under. It's a little borderline. And number two, you got a job. You got to have some income. If you have those three things and you have them together, and you go and talk to the right broker, you can buy a house. And one of the ways that people have built wealth in this country for years is home ownership. The next thing that millionaires have done is developing relationships. Find somebody, excuse me, who can help you. Who can help you with your money? Who can be a mentor? Who do you see who has done a good job? Because I'm telling you, there's information out there that can help you. Look forward. Ask. Don't be shy. I've had many people who come to me over the last, I said this before when this episode started, who've come to me over the last 4 or 5 weeks and said, out of the blue, and said, George, can you help me with my money? Absolutely, I can help you with your money. Absolutely. If you want someone to help you to think more strategically about your money, if you want somebody to help you with budgeting, if you need a tool that can help you to increase your credit rating. If you want to get out of debt, if you want to get away from financial slavery, you can do it, as long as you can believe you can do it. And finally, this is what they've done. And everything they've done, you can do. This is what they've done. They've looked for ways to grow personally. How can they help themselves? How can grow? What kind of information can have you seen? They're not sitting at home watching TV. What they're doing is looking for ways and opportunities to get information and to grow. Well, I hope that helped today. Focused on thinking critically. We're going to talk about that and continue to talk about that in weeks to come, because won't anything change until you tell yourself, I'm ready to change, and you have some discipline to get it done. Well, at St. Stephen Baptist Church, we want you to be successful in every way. And in closing, always remember, God loves you, and so do we. Have a great day.